just stand up and have a go. I want to see a few people prepared to die for AFL. Hello everyone, welcome to Eddie and Jimmy on our Wednesday edition where Jimmy Bartel goes through all your Dear Dorothys. Dear Abby, remember those? Do you remember, you old enough to remember Heart Balm in the age? In the truth?
I think sometimes you forget how old I am.
How old are you?
I'm 83.
Yeah.
I was born.
Well, you were in, did you remember the Truth newspaper?
No.
Teacher used to roll it up, smack you across the head. He said, the truth,
And then that's
the
when
truth hurts.
That's normally when you respond, I know about Napoleon. I've read a book. And
all right,
well,
like the Truth was pretty big. You know, that was the page 3 girls back in the day. But everyone bought it for the form guide. Had the ripping form guide.
Yeah.
But it also had a section. There was a column by Jack Dyer, which was known as Diarrhea. That was the name of the column.
Clever.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. And they also had Heart Balm, which was where people used to send in their
I just remember
questions.
From that classic movie. Was it Dumb and Dumber?
Yes.
And instead of saying she wrote me a Dear John letter, she wrote me a John Deere letter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Thanks to Fiji Airways. And by the way, if you're going to go anywhere, this is the place to go. If you can't get to Europe, Fiji Airways straight in. And then what you can do, can I plot one for you?
Yep.
All right. How old are your kids now?
10, 7 and nearly 3.
Right, okay, nearly prime time. 3-year-old can go to the junior burger version of this. But if you go to Fiji and you have a couple of days, 4 or 5 days over there, maybe even on the way back, right? Let's get straight to the West Coast. Go to Disneyland.
Yep.
Go to all these places which at the moment you can get into. Great time of year to go. You can go to Vancouver, which is one of the great cities of the world, San Francisco, LA, and straight into Dallas. Okay, so take your pick on both sides of the country there. Great hubs. Then when you come back, have 3 or 4 days off in a beautiful resort in Fiji.
Look,
Straight into Melbourne. How about that?
Look, Eddie, I'm happy to be the brave one to go try that out for Fiji Airways if they'd like to send myself and the family.
Paul Scurry's your man, okay?
All right, Paul, I'm very happy to be the brave one to do that for
And you can go to Hello World and they will do the best whole setup for you.
Oh, hello, world.
Hello World. There you go. Let's get stuck into it. Oh, by the way, if you can then get a Hyundai to drive her to the airport,
yeah,
then that is everything right there. They've got the best cars going.
Like I said, I'm happy to be the test dummy. I've got to ask you our first question.
Right.
And each week we want to hear from you, of course, because this is directed to you, Ed.
All right, okay.
You have a sip on your cup of tea while I read this to you. Tasmania risk. Eddie, I listened to your comments about Tasmania last week. Isn't the real long-term risk for the AFL not Tasmania, but relying too heavily on a few so-called big clubs to drive the competition? In business and investing, diversification reduces risk. Shouldn't the AFL be thinking the same way? Focusing on building 19 strong clubs, not protecting 4 or 5, so more teams remain relevant deeper into the season and the competition stays compelling for broadcasters.
That's a very good, very well articulated question from Clifton.
You do discuss this because you said, well, we can't have, you said this on Monday, you can't have Essendon, you can't have Carlton, you can't have Richmond down too long.
No, you can't. There is another theory, and particularly in entertainment, which is a completely different business to running a share portfolio or whatever. Having said that, I get people come to me and they say, you need to have a balanced portfolio. I said, can I have one that's weighted to the ones that go up,
Yeah, that's
not the ones that go down?
Good plan, that.
I want to actually make money, not sort of bottom off. There is a book that I encourage anybody who has an interest in media and business and sports. It's called Blockbuster, or Blockbusters, I think it's called. It's by a woman whose name, if I can get my phone, Richard, can you just look it up, Blockbusters, and I'll get it exactly. And it's probably 10 years old now, but the guts of it is still there. And basically what it is in show business you can spend a lot of time promoting inferior brands. You're better off actually throwing all your money into the big brands at work. That is the blockbuster scenario. Okay, so yes, we need to have an even competition.
Yep.
Because we have subscribed like the NFL does to any given Saturday that your team has a chance. I have no problems with that. But what you need to do is you need to have your big hitters up there. And what I'm saying is I don't want any secret sauce for them to stay up, You have your time in the cycle, but what you don't want to have is all your big teams down in that cycle at the same time. And then Elvis, it goes through and it has the empirical data that matches it up. So a good example was once upon a time Disney used to have all these different movies, and they used to. The idea in Hollywood was throw a handful of rice on the wall and hopefully enough will stick. Okay. Then what they decided was, hang on a second, rather than going down a lot of art house ways, why don't we actually go after a couple of big things? So they got into all those, the Marvel franchises and things. So you go out, and the first ones, remember they went and got Robert Downey Jr., but a massive star, huge. And in the end, they knew that they would get X amount of hundreds of millions of dollars, that the merchandise would be through the roof, and you could just about guarantee it. And if one of them popped, you had another 10 coming down the pike over the next 5 to 10 years. And then in those days, you sold it off and went off to DVD and everything else. Now it goes to streaming. Same sort of routine there. So, yes, that is the situation, but it's like everything in life. You can have lost leaders when you go to the supermarket, but you make your money on the big hitters. And that's where we've got to be a little bit careful over the next few years.
Great question, Clifton.
Thank you, Clifton.
Ben, empty stadiums. It drives me mad seeing the Giants play in front of an almost empty stadium. Why not make entry free for everyone and fill the place so they can get more people coming back after a good footy experience? I did the math. People would only need to spend just over $10 each on food, beers, etc. to make the lost ticket money back on a game, assuming average attendance. This makes them look like a serious team. People enjoy the experience and the crowd numbers go up going forward, provided it's done strategically.
Again, and we're just...
Good luck getting a beer for $10.
In our state, we are giving free transport at the moment. I used to... if you give people free drinks, they'll pour it on their heads. All right? If you charge them $1, they'll actually drink it. I think you actually still need to pay to something, even if it's a gold coin. I sort of get where Ben is going on this, but there's a little bit more to it.
Yeah, so
and I think it's counterintuitive to say, come in because this, it's not worth paying for. You actually need to get people who do want to pay.
Yeah, time slots matter. And I remember in my time on the Giants board, it was instead of clubs put in like 20 proposals to the AFL when they get the fixture done. Every club puts in, hey, we'd love to do this. We want to do a marquee game. We'd love to play. I'll pick another club. Port Adelaide, we want to play Melbourne Saturday at home because we've got a new retro jumper. All those sort of things go into the mix. I remember when you were discussing this with the Giants and said, well, what is your prime time slot? And this was before 4 o'clock became a premium spot for a lot of people. They said, hey, 4 o'clock works for us. And you've discussed this on other podcasts. When you come earlier, you're actually competing with the beach and the weather and other factors, especially in Sydney. So why don't we just put, that's our only proposal. So 4 o'clock, because you've actually got to condition your fans and your market. So we often talk about, you and I, about Friday night footy and Sunday footy. So as a kid growing up, I was conditioned the North Melbourne played on a Thursday night and Sydney played on a Sunday. Now, I know it wasn't every week, but I was conditioned going, hey, if I turn on the TV, I'm likely to see the Swans on a Sunday.
Yep.
Whether, up there at the SCG, or I'm likely to see, those dominant North Melbourne sides on a Friday night. So how can you condition the market? So instead of doing all these gymnastics, and what we tried to propose then was 4:15 home or away, because there's two things. You're conditioning the market because, hey, they're not first choice AFL people, but hey, at 4 o'clock, I'm either going to sit down and watch a game or I can go to a game. The other thing too is financially where that saves the AFL is because of the curfew that happens at Sydney Airport. Every time you keep a team overnight, because if you play a night game, you're not going to get out that night because by the time you finish up, you get to the airport. Well, it's pretty rare if you do. The cost to house another AFL, hotel another group, all the people, team, staff, and that, you're actually saving money because you're getting them out of there at 4 o'clock because they can go catch a 10 o'clock flight or whatever, be out of it.
I agree with you so much in that. Kerry Stokes says to me often, it's all about habit.
Yes.
And I'm not giving up any confidences here, he is bemused about not having football on a Saturday or Saturday night in particular. But I like where you're going. So this, I would be, if I was running the fixture at the AFL, everyone, we end up talking a lot about the big Melbourne teams because it's right here. And when I used to do the fixture at Collingwood, Collingwood's fixture would equal Richmond, Essendon, Carlton, Hawthorn, the other teams, because you had to stay in the right side of the draw as you went through. But I'm so big with you on this. So I think that Sunday afternoon in Perth as a Sunday night game is tick.
Yeah, it's massive. I love it.
You got two of them, so every Sunday.
I love watching it at home.
So do I.
Yeah.
One of them are playing. And now that West Coast are a bit exciting, even better. But you get the teams flowing through there, so you've got them going. I like the idea of Adelaide on a Thursday night.
Yeah, they do it well.
They do it well, and
Interstate does Thursday night well.
Absolutely. So then you have Friday night in Melbourne, Saturday night in Melbourne, and then Sunday afternoon, I think, or the Swans like Sunday or Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't want to. Yeah, but I know what you mean.
Where's GWS one?
Oh, they were Saturday 4 o'clock, and then next closely followed by Sunday 4 o'clock.
Okay, well, either one of those two for the Sydney teams. So, and the other one I like is the idea. And I'd need to talk to Tony Cochrane and to the team up there, Dougie Evans and these guys. But I really like the idea of if you turned the Gold Coast into a Sunday session, okay, and you got all the young people after they've finished at the beach and everyone's had the weekend. Now, I don't know the Gold Coast well enough, but I'm.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that you go there and you turn it into the place.
Yeah, where are we going Sunday? We're going.
And then you have the best disco afterwards. It's almost like the old St Kilda disco back in the old days, Yeah. But you have the best, whatever the disco is.
It's the place to be.
That's the place to be. You come off the beach, you go to the footy. It's the hot young crowd. You make it great. You get all the atmosphere in there, and then afterwards, it's the Sunday night session.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that starts to make a bit of sense.
Yep.
Now, whether you alternate that between WA and Queensland, then it works.
Yep.
Brisbane might be a bit different. Brisbane, their Thursday night games are good too. I mean, Holy Thursday against Collingwood's become a big
thing.
A big thing. So you work them out, but there's enough there to get them through us. But as you say, if more likely than not you can turn it on and you have half an idea who's going to be playing. So in your point, if it was 4 o'clock on Saturday, you turn it on, you go, right, GWS will be playing somebody, and geez, this is going to be a good game because they're playing, Carlton, and if they're going any good. Hang on, let me pick another one.
You'll get another phone call.
Oh, okay.
All right, Eddie.
Yep.
This is from Steve. Replacing Marvel. Eddie, last week you mentioned Gosh's Paddock as the site to replace Marvel. Sorry, Eddie, but that's a silly idea. Footy worked better when we had multiple stadiums on the fringe rather than continual traffic jams where games coincide with each other and other events. I actually think the old Ford factory in Campbellfield would be an ideal site. You have the upfield station terminus and, as yourself have pointed out, the growth corridor of Melbourne. If we can't go back to Princess Park, then I think this would be the best option with Essendon, Carlton and North Melbourne all using it as their home stadium. It would also be a good venue for the visiting interstate teams as it is closer to the airport.
Yeah, look, I mean, I grew up not far from there, so I know it well. And there's a lot of sense in what Steve says. However, it actually makes more sense these days to have that central hub because it's not only for football, it's for major events and for everything else. So, yes, while I agree with Steve as a boy growing up in Broadmeadows who hated Waverley's guts, right, with a passion. You couldn't get there, right? It took forever. You had to get trains out to Glen Waverley and then try and get a bus to go out to Waverley itself, and it was a nightmare. You get home the next day. So I understand what you're saying, but we have got a whole freeway and railway and public transport set up like a wagon wheel in Melbourne. So I think that while I agree with what Steve is saying, in some ways, I still think the ultimate for the long term, remembering when you build one of these things is going to cost, hello Tasmania, better than $2 billion to do so. So at the moment, I don't mind if it stays where it is at the Docklands, but if you're going to start from scratch, maybe that would be the place. Anyway, I get what you're saying, but I agree with everything you're saying there, Steve, as far as it having some really big areas out there. So I'd love to see a lot more. You know what my idea is? I really think the VFL should be turbocharged.
Yep.
And particularly areas, I'd be putting new teams in around the ring roads of Melbourne and the growth corridors, because as they say with the women, women talk about this with a glass ceiling. If you see it, you can believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see a lot more teams out in those areas. Maybe Coburg, for example, or these clubs could play some games out there.
A second venue.
Have a second venue, turn that into the under-18s or the local area.
Create a pipeline through.
Well, I'd love to see schools being built around these things and shopping centres and community health centres so that it becomes the hub for a community and you play sport there as well.
Yep.
That would make sense to me. Kill a few birds with one stone. Sean says, ideal competition. Tasmanian Devils are due to come into the AFL season soon, which takes us to 19 teams, likely to go to 20. However, every time there's a new team, the gap between the top and the bottom team seems to widen. What do you think the ideal number of teams is in the AFL?
I think the number is fine, and we're getting there is a lot of talent out there because the numbers that are coming through now from Southeast Queensland, so we're actually getting more kids into the pool. It's what situation you arrive into. Is it the development program? The kids are talented when they're coming through. Like I see a lot of underage football, and there is a huge amount of talent coming through, and that I only seeing probably weekly from Victoria.
Well, you're coaching at Caulfield Grammar, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm involved in Caulfield Grammar, but that means I'm across all the talent league. It's without a sponsorship, but from 16s to 18s, even having a look at speaking to someone recently, those state under 12s and 13s. So there's over 1,000 kids trialling for that. So we've got enough talent. It's just what we do with that talent when they come in to AFL level. That one of the big things that's handicapped teams when they absolutely cut the knees of football clubs with the soft cap and took their time bringing that back up is you've still got to invest heavily in development because they're not a finished product.
Yeah.
There's 17 and 18-year-olds and some of them are a little bit later. They're nowhere near a finished product.
Nope. Totally agree. That's why I want to try and I've been a big proponent, and I've put my money where my mouth is because we underwrote the VFL broadcasting for a number of years. That the VFL, the Sandful, the Waffle, and whatever the NEFL used to be, or whatever that competition is so important. And I still, look, we destroyed the VFA. The VFA used to be 2 competitions of seniors, reserves and under-19s and pretty good facilities. Yeah. And the women's competition coming through that. And I just think we should be doing more in that area.
So there's a bit of
and country footy.
And it's a bit of a broad statement. I'm not saying this happens everywhere, but the focus on athletics. Yeah. So we've got a lot of teenagers, girls and boys. The main focus of what's getting their attention is how quick they run a 2K time trial. Yep. And those teams are built for the individual, not actually play with the team. How do we play team defence? There's anti-density rules. So if you draft a big guy, he's probably going to be very dominant because he's just been one-on-one. But you get at AFL level, he comes up against a centre-half back using a key forward. There's team defences. There's got 10 years. So there's still a lot of space for development.
All right. Okay.
TV Harry. Ratings. This is your wheelhouse.
Okay. Yep.
From Harry. The NRL constantly ramble on about how they always beat us in TV audience. There's a website called TV Tonight and everyone can view it. I've been keeping an eye on it so far this season and we have beaten the NRL for viewers for almost every game, particularly Thursday and Fridays. Am I missing something here?
Yeah, we are. We're missing that we don't actually get out and blow our own horn enough. Volandes is a one-man Barnum and Bailey circus. Peter Volandes, he's a beauty. He gets out there, he's selling, and sometimes he's selling fresh air. And our guys, for some reason, don't want to have the fight. We got done in the grand final last year, which sets me off because you know how long I've been saying this is coming, this is coming, this is coming, and now we've actually signed up for another 2 years of getting done. Okay? Can you believe that? When you put it that way? We've actually signed up and announced with a full chest and a happy heart and a smiling disposition to get done by our major opposition.
But they'd be saying they're going with what the punters want.
No, they're not, though. But that's not the job of the AFL Commission.
No, but that's what they've done.
Oh, well, okay, good. Yeah, let's keep going. Free beer party. That's what the punters want. We want free beer at the footy. Bring back the biff. What else? Free pies.
That'd also be a good thing.
Free everything. Everybody wins. Meantime, in the real world, now the NRL market themselves very, very well.
They do.
And, they've also got the Nine Network who are very good at marketing. Have been the best marketers on TV forever. So, I think Seven do a great job. I think Seven's telecast, by the way, declaring interest. My son's obviously on Friday Footy. Leave him to the side. I think they've done a really good job in the last couple of years. Chris Jones and his team really doing great things. They finally jumped in, and Hutchie's mob doing agenda setters. Nine basically carried primetime television shows for the best part of 35 years. Okay, from the time they axed World of Sport and we put the Sunday Footy show on, and then the Footy show, and then Footy Classifieds, etc. So now it's great to see that Seven are doing. Fox Footy do a great job with what they're doing. So there's plenty there, but we should be out selling this harder.
Yep.
Okay. Now, it's an interesting one at the moment. None of the TVs want to put Volandes offside. Okay. None of them, because they're all trying to line up to get State of Origin, which is coming up. To the point where I know Peter Volandes gets the stopwatch out. Why are you doing this on this show? How come, Channel 9, how come you're doing all these TV shows on AFL? They're the opposition. You have a look at Seven at the moment. What are they doing? They're the AFL show. They've got agenda setters now in Sydney on the rugby league. So they're all currying favour. So AFL's a bit out of sight, out of mind because the deals have been done. So that's where it's at the moment. Everybody's trying to be Peter Volandes' friend. And I think the AFL needs to get a couple of, people who can stand up and call it out.
Yes.
Okay. Got 9 people on the commission. Got a big administration. Away they go.
Lots of work for them to do.
Well, not that much. Just stand up and have a go. I want to see a few people prepared to die for AFL.
Maybe not that far.
You know the old saying, bacon and eggs, the pig's committed and the chicken's just engaged. I'd like to see a few more committed to the cause.
You like getting your coach speak on, don't you? You get fired up.
All right. Tomorrow we'll have our predictions and the weekend ahead. Make sure you join me and Jimmy anywhere you get your podcast, Instagram, YouTube. Just search Eddie and Jimmy. Talk to you tomorrow.